Hey everybody, it's Ashley Richardson back, and that's Ms. Richardson to you if you are a student watching, with another cake video. And today we are making one of my all-time favorites, the Louisiana crunch cake. What we have here are 3 tablespoons of sweetened coconut flakes and a half a cup of candied pecans. I've used these before. They come from Trader Joe's. The pecans, they have really good nuts. And when you roast your pecans and your coconut flakes, it really brings out the sweetness and the robust flavor of both of the ingredients. So we're going to stick these in the oven to just roast for a little bit, and then we're going to put them in the food processor. In the food processor, we have the pecans and the coconuts, both toasted, and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. And this mixture will serve as what goes in the bottom of the tube pan and provides some of that yummy crunch. I have already added my teaspoon of salt, and this is a full block of cream cheese and 3 sticks of salted butter. I have coconut extract, and I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of that. 1 teaspoon of butter extract. 1 teaspoon of almond extract, a teaspoon of maple extract. Oh no. Well, that's 2 teaspoons. And then we're gonna add in our 3rd teaspoon of vanilla extract. It really doesn't matter if you have more vanilla extract because it's so good. And then I have black walnut oil, and I'm gonna add about a half a teaspoon of that. And I normally add a pecan oil, but there has been a shipment issue with that, so I do not have the pecan oil that I would normally mix. We also have cream bouquet, and I'm gonna add in a teaspoon of that. Make sure to shake your cream bouquet before adding it into the mix. And this is what the inside of the mixing bowl looks like. Again, that's the cream cheese, the butter, the salt, and all of the extracts. And we're gonna let this mix a little bit before adding in the sugar. I'm gonna start adding in my sugar slowly, and we're gonna mix the sugar, the butter, and the cream cheese until it is light and fluffy. Always make sure to stop your mixer and scrape down the sides of your bowl. We are almost there. I still hear just a few granules of sugar. So we're gonna let it mix just a little bit longer. You wanna mix until it's light and fluffy and you cannot hear the sugar. So we're gonna let it go for just a few more minutes, but we are almost there. All right, we have achieved light and fluffy. It's a perfect texture. So that is what your mixture should look like after creaming properly. Now we must add our eggs in one at a time. I have 5 cracked eggs. at room temperature. And by the way, all of the ingredients are room temperature. The eggs, the butter, the cream cheese, everything is room temperature, and we're gonna add the eggs one at a time. So I'm gonna go ahead and plop one of those in. And we're gonna mix until we can no longer see the yolk. Only takes maybe about 10 seconds. We do not wanna overmix at this point. Once again, we're gonna take the time to scrape down the sides of our bowl. And if you can believe it, the last step is to add the flour. So I'm gonna add it in slowly. Once again, we want to make sure not to overmix. Now add in about a cup at a time. The next step in our Louisiana crunch cake is, first of all, I have thoroughly sprayed my tube pan with baking spray. And what gives the cake its special crunch is the layer of sugar that's inside of the pan. That's one of the things. So I'm gonna add my sugar to the inside of the tube pan. This is a 1/4 of a cup of sugar. And you want to make sure that while you're sugaring the pan that you get all around the inside of the pan and all of the edges, because that's what gives it its crunch. I'm also going to add it to the tube. So if you look inside of my tube pan, I have a good coating of sugar on the inside, and the batter is going to bake into that layer of sugar, and it's really going to provide a nice crunch. And the next fun part about this cake is adding the toasted pecans and the coconut. So this is what I had in the oven. It's nice and processed, and it's going to give a really nice crunchy layer to the cake. So we're gonna add that into the tube pan as well. And you want to make sure that it's added in evenly. If you don't like coconut, you could certainly leave that step out, or leave that ingredient out, I should say, if you don't like the coconut. And that's what the inside of our prepared tube looks like, with the layer of sugar and your coconut and pecans at the bottom, and also the brown sugar that I mixed in. The final step is to gently add the whipped batter into the tube pan. And you're gonna put the batter directly on top of the coconut and pecan layer at the bottom. I've seen people use ice cream scoopers to scoop out their cake batter. I think I want one. Now, do I need one? No, because clearly I do just fine with my spatula here. I don't know, the ice cream scooper just looks so cool. And I guess it helps make sure that maybe the batter is placed in the tube pan more evenly, possibly. It's a lot of batter. And I still don't even have all of it out of the pan just yet. I'm still working on getting all of it out. So always make sure that you have a pan large enough so that your cake has room to grow and it has room to rise. That was a rookie mistake that I made when I first started baking. I was using pans that were too small and couldn't figure out why my cakes always bubbled over. Well, it's because my pans were too small. And we're gonna make sure that the batter is even across the top. There we go. We're gonna shake it to get out the air bubbles and tap it. And we don't want to disturb it too much because we don't want to mess up that layer of topping that's at the bottom. I'm gonna clean my tube and this cake is ready for the oven. So it's just about time for the cake to come out of the oven, and we're going to make this brown butter glaze for the cake. What I have in my mixing cup is a ½ cup of confectioner sugar. That's your powdered sugar. I have 4 tablespoons of brown sugar, have a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, a teaspoon of coconut extract, a teaspoon of butter and almond extract. I have the rest of the black walnut oil in here, a teaspoon of the cream bouquet, and I believe that's it. And I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And I'm gonna just kind of take my knife here. So just, there we go. There's the melted butter. And I'm just going to just stir it a little bit. And what we want here is a thin consistency because I want to create a brown butter glaze. I don't want it to be thick, but I want it just thick enough so that it coats the cake, because what I'm gonna do is take a brush and actually brush the cake with this brown butter glaze. I'm gonna add just a little bit of milk, and remember, we're just gonna add this a little at a time. Let's start off with a tablespoon. And this is just 2% milk. And that's about the consistency that I'm going for. Yep. And it's pretty much done. You see that is it's almost like a caramel, if you will. But this is the glaze that we're going to brush over the cake, and I'll be back when it's time to pull the cake out of the oven. The cake is ready to come out of the oven. That is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And we're gonna sit it on the rack to cool. We'll let the cake cool for just a little bit, but I want to put the glaze on while it's still warm so that all of those extra flavors can seep into the cake. The cake has cooled well enough, and we're going to flip her. Perfect. That's what the inside of the pan looks like. If you remember, that's where we put all of the pecans and the coconut at the bottom. But it came out perfectly. Don't worry, I'm gonna eat all of this in the bottom of the pan. The bottom of the pan stuff is delicious. You can see the sugar, like the crystals of sugar. You can see that topping. If you look along the edges there, you can see that nice topping. Let's get all angles. It came out perfectly and it smells amazing. Now we're gonna go ahead and put that brown butter glaze around the cake. I reheated it slightly to thin it out some so that it was a nice consistency for the cake. And I'm gonna just pour a little bit over the top first. And I want to literally brush that into the cake. I also want to hit the sides. Sometimes this can get a little bit messy, but that's okay. And this is why I didn't want it to be too thick, because I needed it to be thin enough so that I could get a nice coating all around the cake. I'm gonna have to put it on some on the inside as well. And once this dries down, it's also going to harden a little bit and create an amazingly sweet, crunchy layer. So you'll have the coconut, you'll have the pecans, you'll have the sugar that I put on the inside of the tube pan, and then you'll have this brown butter glaze that's also going to dry down on the cake. And I promise you guys, I'm gonna clean up this mess. This happens every time I do this cake. And it may not look like much now, but I promise you it's going to be delicious. So I've taken what was left inside of the pan because we're not gonna let all of that go to waste. I mean, that's a lot of topping there. And I'm just gonna take the remainder of that and sprinkle it across the top of the cake to just add more yumminess. Here is the finished product. We have a Louisiana crunch cake made with pecans and coconut with a brown butter glaze and some of that pecan brown sugar coconut topping drizzled across the top, or shall I say sprinkled, and it has been drenched, brushed, and wiped with a brown butter glaze. Isn't that pretty, y'all? Okay, let's dig in. It is now time to cut our cake. Where should we dig in? She's still warm. Look at that consistency. That is beautiful. And I want to get actually, let's put this to the side. So that's the inside of the cake. Beautiful. The consistency is perfect. Can y'all see that? How pretty that is. And here is my slice. See how moist that is? And then I also want you to see, look at that coating. That topping, the edges of the cake, that is the most delicious part. It's going to be so good. Okay, the moment that we have all been waiting for, and if you haven't been waiting for it, I have been waiting for it. It's still warm. This is so rich. And I haven't even gotten to that crust yet. Let's get this back corner. This is absolutely delicious. And the cake is always better the next day. You all should definitely try this recipe. It's my version of the Louisiana crunch cake. It's one of my favorite cakes to bake. I get a lot of requests for this cake. I've sold several of these. It's really, really good. It's rich, it's delicious, and it just melts in your mouth. Well, we have come to the end of another video. I thank you so much for spending just a little bit of your time with me today. Once again, my name is Ashley Richardson, and that's Miss Richardson to you if you are a student watching. And if you made it to the end of the video, please consider subscribing, liking, and dropping a comment and letting us know if you've tried the cake or a variation of this cake. We're curious in our community here. And I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Bye.